Hello, everyone. I'm Kate Baldwin. John Berman is getting a much-deserved day off today. We have very big political news this hour, but first, we do need to head to Las Vegas, where any moment now, the woman who police say intentionally drove her car into dozens of people along the Las Vegas Strip, she is set to face a judge for the first time. Lakeisha Holloway, you see her right there on the left side of your screen. She faces 3 felony charges, including murder. And prosecutors say more charges, they're likely to be added as the investigation unfolds. 1 person is dead after all of this, 37 others injured in that horrific scene Sunday night. Let's get straight to Ryan Young, who's outside the courthouse in Las Vegas right now. So, Ryan, what are we expecting to hear? What are we expecting to happen this hour?
Well, good morning. We're hoping to hear more charges and maybe some of the details that we haven't learned just yet. I mean, everyone wants to know what the motive is in this case and maybe some of the details that she shared with deputies once she was arrested. Look, 37 people were injured in this. So many people witnessed what happened when that car kept going from the roadway to the sidewalk, back to the roadway, to the sidewalk. But the details in terms of what she said to officers afterwards, that's something that people want to lock in on and try to figure out exactly what was going through this woman's mind as this was going on. A lot of talk just in the last few days, one, about the child that was in the car. That 3-year-old we know was in protective custody. We do know her family was traveling to town to get custody of the child. What happens from there? We were talking to family members yesterday who said, look, this is not the Lakeisha Holloway they know. And they were telling us they plan to talk after court today, after figuring out exactly what she faced. So you can obviously understand with court getting ready to start, a lot of people are nervous in terms of her family members, in terms of what this young lady will face. She turned her life around, and at some point she was homeless, and she talked about the idea of taking a step forward and changing her life. Now that all seems different with her facing these serious charges after running a lot of people over, and including killing that mother of 3.
Yeah, not only such a sad, horrific story that played out Sunday night, but 2 very conflicting stories about who this woman is coming out from police and from her family. And as you mentioned, we do expect to hear from family members. Do we know whom after this court appearance?
Look, they have a family spokesperson, but that's the thing that everyone's been talking about, those conflicting stories about her life, the fact that she changed her life and had a promising future, and then now what's going on here. The sheriff talked about the idea that maybe she was having a dispute with the father of her child and that she was trying to drive to wherever he was and stopped here to get some rest. And unfortunately, she was pushed away from several different parking lots because obviously her car didn't belong there as she was trying to sleep. And as they pushed that car out of those parking lots, she then turned her car onto the Las Vegas Strip. But no one knows the motivation for why she turned her car on from the roadway onto the sidewalk, and that's what everyone's been focusing on, hoping that more details come out in this court case, because you got to feel for the families, the victims, obviously the people who were just standing there minding their own business when this car comes careening off onto the sidewalk. The family member that we talked to yesterday was just so shocked. They wanted to get in front of her just to see maybe if they could glean something from her, but they said at the end of the day, the only person who knows exactly what was going on with that situation was Lakeisha Holloway.
Absolutely. As Ryan's been speaking, you've been seeing on the other side of your screen, everyone, just to flag for you, that's this promotional video that Lakeisha Holloway filmed a few years ago, talking about how she had turned her life around and how she had overcome adversity to become the woman that she was then. That was just 3 years ago. Such a very different woman and a very different story from what we're seeing right now.
I'm a mature young woman who has broken many
the first woman in her family to graduate from high school, then to go on to college, then to get a job with the federal government. Everything seemed to be online. And I remember yesterday we had someone from that organization talking about her life and the idea they hadn't had contact with her for years. When I was talking to the family members, they said, look, she has a nice support system around her. They had no idea that anything like this would ever happen. And of course, they're concerned with her mental state. We do know she was put on suicide watch, so you obviously understand this is one of those situations where they're worried about the mentality of the person who was involved in this. But at the end of the day, when you think about the victims who were all walking along that sidewalk in busy Las Vegas downtown Strip, who never knew this woman, never saw that car before, all of a sudden it starts hitting women, children, and kids, you can understand why people want to know exactly what's going on here.
Not just once, but over and over again. It just absolutely makes no sense. Ryan Young is outside the court for us. We're watching right now for this court appearance to begin. When it does, we will take you inside the courtroom so we can all watch these proceedings together to find out what will happen. In the meantime, let me get some more insight. Let me bring in CNN commentator and legal analyst Mel Robbins, as well as Laura Coates, former assistant U.S. attorney for the District of Columbia. So, Mel, as Ryan was really laying out, there's so much that doesn't make any sense in terms of the stories that are coming out from the sheriff's office, from the authorities in Las Vegas, and coming out from this woman's family. But take me first inside the courtroom and what you expect. How much or how little do you expect for us to learn in this first appearance?
Good morning, Kate. Good morning, Laura. I think that we're not going to learn all that much. This is the first court appearance. They're going to be talking, I'm sure, about remanding her. I highly doubt you're going to see any bail in this situation. The prosecutor is still investigating. As we heard in the report earlier, I am certain that there are going to be more charges brought in this case. And then there's also the really interesting question around whether or not, once she is given a public defender, which is what I used to do in New York City, I would be assigned cases when people can't afford their own attorneys and defend them, whether or not this could be an insanity defense in this case. And the law in Nevada is very tricky and very different than a lot of states, Kate.
Oh, that's fascinating. Would that come up right now, though, Laura, in your experience? Is that something that's not going to come up now, right?
What would come up now is whether she pleads not guilty or guilty by insanity right now. That's an available defense in Nevada right now. It usually happens about 21 days before the trial, and you have time to develop your case theory. But you're absolutely right. Maybe. I mean, you're very far away from that. But the real crux of the issue is what she did may have been crazy behavior, but that is not legal insanity. Nevada is very tight. It's very narrow. You have to both think that what you're doing was not wrong and also not know what you're doing. And her accounts of the police officers in her investigation and an interview all suggest she was not intoxicated. She was rational enough to drive herself to a hotel and ask for security to have her arrested. This is somebody who is going to have a unbelievably not possible insanity defense. She is going to get a conviction.
And Mel, Laura brings up an important point that I actually wanted to ask you about. The detail that after running over all of these people, she drove away, this is according to the police report, then stopped, found a security guard, told the security guard to actually contact police because she had just hit a bunch of people. The fact that she basically admitted to all of this, how does that play into her prosecution?
Well, Laura,
you know what? Pause real quick, guys. I'm so sorry. Let's go inside the courtroom because Lakeisha Holloway is entering the courtroom right now.
Hello, Mr. Chadasma.
How are you?
That's fine. Just stand right there. Do you have a copy of the criminal complaint and waive its reading, Mr. Booth?
Yes, we do, Your Honor.
All right. And would you like a preliminary hearing set in the ordinary course or 15 days?
Actually, Your Honor, I think, as Your Honor probably knows, there's going to be a number of additional charges that we anticipate. The state's still investigating. Obviously, we'd like to run some independent investigation. We're requesting a 30-day status check for the purpose of setting a preliminary hearing.
Okay. Ms. Holloway, do you understand and agree with that? You have a right to a preliminary hearing within 15 days of today's date. However, Mr. Booth has told me due to the complexity of the case that you're willing to waive that 15-day period and instead set this for a 30-day status check and then we'll set your preliminary hearing. You agree with that? Okay. Here's a 30-day status check and we'll set preliminary hearing at that time. Let's do, what day are you giving me?
January 20th.
Yeah, that's fine.
January 20th, 8 a.m.
Okay?
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you.
Just one thing for the record.
Yes?
The original police report had the victim's name wrong in the count. It says Jessica Doreen. We were able to confirm her last name is in fact Valenzuela. I didn't file an amended this morning, but I wanted the record to be clear that Jessica.
All right, so quick and fast with some details coming out. Let me bring back in Mel Robbins and Laura Coates. So as you guys both heard and as you both anticipated, it was going to be short. It was going to be brief. We did hear, as you suspected, Mel, though, that that they said that they do anticipate a number of additional charges, and they're asking them, they want a 30-day status check before they kind of move forward. January 20th it was sent for, and very little emotion or anything that you heard from Ms. Holloway in this, just simply answering the questions of the judge. Yes, ma'am, is all I saw a couple of times. Mel?
Yeah, not surprising at all, because as you heard, the prosecution side, they're still investigating this case. This is a woman that was killed. You've got 35 people that are hospitalized. You've got her driving on the sidewalk for more than 200 feet. You've got this added piece that Laura talked about, where after she had killed somebody and sent all these people to the hospital, she pulls up to a hotel and turns herself in, essentially. And so this is it's not a complicated case necessarily to try, but given the number of victims in this case, the police want to be very thorough in investigating and bringing the number of charges. And on her side, we still don't know. While Laura wants to think that this is an absolute slam dunk, we still don't know the story about her mental health background. We don't know if she was delusional during the time that she was driving the car. I'm not suggesting that she was, but there's still a lot more to learn. I'm not surprised, though. I hate to say this, Kate. Everyone's focusing on the fact that she had turned her life around. Yeah. And, how could she spiral so quickly? 3 years is a big amount of time in somebody's life, particularly if you end up homeless. And other things end up happening to you. So that doesn't justify what she did, but this is a story as a former public defender that you hear a lot.
Well, and you've also heard kind of how it's difficult even for the sheriff's department involved to really grapple with what they're looking at here. I mean, they say they believe it's an intentional act, but she wouldn't say why she ran into these crowds of people, only saying that she does remember seeing a body bump up against the windshield or against her window at one point. So it seems clear that they themselves are grappling with what could possibly be the motive behind this. Laura, I want to get your final thought, Laura, as we go to break, but can you also answer me this? She had her 3-year-old daughter in the car. What happens to that child?
That child is removed from her care and her custody, and I believe her family will take custody if there's not a more viable solution for it. But to Mel's point, the reason that delusional behavior is important in Nevada, the only way to prove that if it's delusional, that means that she had to actually believe that what she was doing was in self-defense and protecting her in some way. We don't have any information about that. What we have is somebody who people were trying to stop on the Las Vegas. They were trying to pull her out of the car to stop the car as she repeatedly rammed into those people. You do have a case where somebody appears to have done intentional behavior, and so far I have seen nothing to legally justify her actions. She should be charged with murder and at least 30 counts of attempted murder.
Now, one person is dead, 37 others injured, some of them in critical and serious conditions, still in the hospital. A very long way from trial, obviously, and we are just looking at the very beginning, a 30-day status check. We just saw Lakeisha Holloway really for the first time in person as she headed into that courtroom for her first appearance. Mel, Laura, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kate.
Coming up for us.
I'm the leading state sponsor of terrorism.